We live in an era where the path to financial independence seems clearer than ever. The idea of writing a book, self-publishing to wild success, and sharing your message with the world is a modern dream for millions. Yet, for the vast majority of aspiring creators holding on to that dream, the reality looks very different. Millions of them will never type a single word on page 1. This diagram illustrates what we call the personal story threshold. It's the invisible dividing line separating your creative goals on the right from a chaotic mass of perceived barriers on the left. From the creator's perspective, the left side of this threshold feels completely insurmountable. It looks like a towering wall of strict prerequisites, demanding that you secure influencer connections, find perfect timing, and carve out infinite free space before you are allowed to begin. But if we look closely at these requirements, we have to ask a difficult question. Are these actual physical laws of success? Or are they a highly engineered psychological smokescreen designed to protect us from the very real fear of failure? Let's address the most common external excuse creators use to stall. It usually sounds like this: I am not famous yet. I don't have a big following. The assumption is that you need a massive audience already waiting for you before you are permitted to start creating. This flowchart maps the core logical fallacy. You cannot manifest an audience without creative work in existence. It creates a strict catch-22. You need followers to publish, but must publish to get followers. Visibility is a byproduct of work, not a prerequisite. Because of this loop, creators deploy elaborate stalling tactics. They convince themselves they need to spend months securing influencer collaborations, or somehow magically gain visibility as a mandatory first step. Sitting around waiting for an audience to arrive before you produce anything guarantees one specific outcome: you will remain entirely invisible. Once we strip away the need for external validation, the brain quickly pivots to weaponize the internal logistics of the creative process. It focuses heavily on the sheer volume of perceived work. This brings us to the sequential trap. This is the rigid belief that you have to perfectly execute step 1, step 2. Look at this minimalist roadmap. The path to self-publishing is relatively straightforward, but your brain actively overcomplicates it to make the journey appear impossible. By artificially inflating complexity, you trigger intense overwhelm. Suddenly, the project feels too hard, and tasks feel like too much to do. Building this towering mental barrier serves a very specific purpose. It provides you with total psychological permission to pack up and walk away from your ambition without feeling an ounce of guilt. Obsessive sequential planning rarely improves the quality of the project. It is simply a highly effective defense mechanism, shielding you from the vulnerability of starting. Let's look at the final, and perhaps most powerful, scapegoat in a creator's arsenal: the perceived lack of physical space and daily time. You hear it in the specific language of deferral. We tell ourselves we lack time. Maybe next month will open up. Then we decide next year would be more realistic because it's already nearly the end of the current year. This graph models the concept of divine timing. It's the psychological illusion that a perfect, entirely stress-free moment with infinite free time will eventually arrive if we just wait long enough. Pointing to the calendar is the most socially acceptable way to surrender your ambition. If you tell people you simply don't have the space or time for a massive undertaking, society nods in agreement and rarely questions you. The truth is, the frictionless conditions of divine timing will never physically manifest in your life. In the context of creative work, later is simply a psychological proxy for never. So we arrive back at the personal story threshold. Only now we can see it clearly for what it is: an entirely self-imposed barrier constructed out of 3 logical fallacies. There are no external gatekeepers standing in your way. No one is checking to see if you have enough followers to write a page, or verifying that your calendar is sufficiently clear of obligations. The realization that separates the dreamers from the authors who actually hit that $10,000 self-publishing milestone comes down to this specific action. Successful self-publishers do not start because they have all the prerequisites neatly lined up. They succeed specifically because they take action in spite of lacking them. The threshold is an artificial illusion. The only real requirement to cross it is the decision to begin.